Go.
Nice.
So here we are. So welcome all. If you're new, thanks for joining us for our weekly workshop. So this week we're going to, this happens all the time. How many times do you all come in and I have to change the goal setting topic? I'll say grab bag. So first, we had a great conversation last week. If you were not here, I know Trisha, you're on the call. Thank you. If you were not here, you definitely should go to our YouTube channel and check out the recording from Trisha and Matt and Greg, who really talked about what I would say are like top tier level ways to run business reviews or conversations to have in
Nice.
business reviews around goal setting. So it was really powerful. I think there you get two different styles of how they approach it and can learn lots from it. So if you are new to us, on Wednesdays, there are new to LCI workshops where we click through how to,
Oh,
yeah. So if you didn't know that, if you
great.
are brand new this week, you will get the invite to that on the probably tomorrow morning.
Cool.
If you haven't gotten that by Tuesday, feel free to just reach out to me, or you can just put a note in the chat or email me. I'll put my email in the chat and say, hey, can you make sure I'm on that invite? And I will make sure. So
Yeah. No. So they're called the LCI, their workshops.
it says new to LCI, and that is a 5-week cadence, 4 or 5 week, depending how many are in a month. So it's group onboarding. So it's, just like this call, it won't just be your company. It'll be everybody, from different companies that have signed on. We do 30 minutes worth of canned content and then 30 minutes worth of Q&A. The
Great.
recorded content is already in the platform. Now we redo it each time, so it's always a little bit different. But if you can't make that time, then you can always grab the recorded content. Holy
Awesome.
let me move this so I can actually see when my new Alex can't make the call today. So I'm like hitting buzzers, rubber baby buggy bumper, like letting people in the waiting room, doing slides, all the things. So yeah, if you don't have that, just send me an invite and I'll make sure you are there.
Perfect.
I'll
Thanks.
also in just a minute show you where you can find those recordings in the platform. So since we last spoke, we have added a couple pieces to where we'll be. We are definitely going to be at DattoCon. That's actually fairly close to our backyards in DC, September 11th through 13th. Again, we'll drive up to New Jersey in July. And I put big in a small Post-it because I think it's funny to have big in a small. But I think we'll be going big. We're negotiating that with them right now.
Cool.
So if any of you are aiming any of those places, we shall be there. Let me let Emma in. Okay. So want to talk through a couple things today, including a new release that is going out probably Monday. So on Tuesday, when you come back, this will be a new item for you. So, and we haven't announced this one really before, so everybody should be, I feel like ears perk up when I say new release items. So let me hop over to the platform and let Tim in. All right. So first, last week, I presented a couple of frameworks and I'm going to share them again just to review kind of where we were. And then I'm going to send this deck out with the Monday morning email, which will happen on Tuesday morning, since you'll all be hopefully enjoying those baby back ribs and steak. So my thinking was last week, Trisha and Matt and Greg talked about goal setting and how they had conversations around leveling their clients up and using goals to drive technology initiatives. And we talked through a couple frameworks that are often helpful in that conversation. So I made prettier versions of the slides that I will give to you. They're not branded. You could completely steal them, make them your own. If they help you have the conversation, go right ahead. If nothing else, I think it's a good way to think about it. So last week I talked about Maslow's hierarchy. So this is a human being hierarchy, right? You need food, air, water, shelter before you worry about safety, with security, stability, freedom from fear. Belonging is next with love. You need family and friends. Then you need self-esteem, and then you can become self-actualized, the best version of you. The running joke, of course, which IT folks always love, is now the basic need is Wi-Fi, and all of those other things come into play. But what's important here is starting with that running joke gets people getting the notion of, when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority, right? So you get them thinking about what are my basic needs and move up the progression. In business, so I will quote the reference on this. This is not my work. It is my typing, but it is somebody else's thinking. That in technology, these are the levels. So the very base level is it working? If you think about when everybody went remote, they threw out all of their security protocols and measures. They're like, yep, do it on your mobile device, do it on your kid's iPad, go ahead and use whatever you got at home just to make it happen, right? So is it working is always the first concern. Is it safe and will it keep working is next. So that's your security, business continuity conversations. Is it part of my process, right? Is it integrated so I can get data and actionable insights quickly? Does it help me win? Is it a competitive differentiator for me? And then lastly, is it the gold standards of what I can do in this industry? If you want to drive business conversations, right, toward the top of this, it's a handy tool to say which of these, where do you feel like your priorities are right now? If they're concerned with number 5 because 4 people complain all of the time about the fact that their technology isn't operating all the time, there's downtime, laggy, etc., then your conversation about RTO and RPO is going to fall on deaf ears because they can't worry about the security of the data, the continuity of the data. They can't even get the computers running. So this kind of helps you talk about the foundational components. Also, they're going to want to talk about their business goals, right? Are they the gold standard in their industry? And you have to explain to them, you're never going to be the gold standard in the industry as long as you're running on Windows 7 machines, right? So that's the whole notion of this helps you drive your business conversations from this is what you need as a baseline foundation. Everyone loves to paint their bathrooms, but literally no one does that without having a strong foundation in place. So we can't talk about the fun stuff until we get through the other pieces. So this lets you have those asset lifecycle management conversations, user reporting, et cetera, the security pieces, right? When they understand that that's a baseline measure, helps push that conversation forward. Just a couple other frameworks and then we'll hop into the platform. One, if you want to see, again, I'm sharing this slide deck on Monday. It'll be attached just because I think this graphic is useful to them. Sometimes you're presenting a lot of pieces of data, but when we can give them to them as insights and wisdom, they're better off with it. So that is really what we aim to help you do in Lifecycle Insights. Take disparate information from a lot of different sources and pull it together in one. So I'm a huge fan of the process maturity model. So that's what you see in the arrows across. Process maturity models, let's think about something we do that's undefined. Then you turn it into a manual process. Then you turn it into a digital process. And I talked about this last week. A big differentiator for managed service providers is a lot of folks, well, nearly all of them, are so IT savvy, right? That pivot tables and Excel reporting feels automated, but in fact, that's just digital. But when you can truly automate something and kick off a process, that's when it can be transformative. So again, that's what Lifecycle Insights aims to help you do. But the important piece of this conversation for you is to present the idea of this model to your clients and ask them, what are those things that you're doing that are undefined or manual that maybe as a technology provider, we can help you find some ways to automate. So I always joke that I did this not just with technology, but in everyday life. When I heard of this model, I thought, well, what are some things I don't like doing that I have to do all the time that feels very disorganized and chaotic? And the answer that immediately came to mind was grocery shopping. Not a fan, don't like it, wastes a lot of time, very manual, bit of chaotic. I had a son who could drive and a daughter who likes shopping. So I solved this problem by automating it for me. Now that's not automation in the land of IT automation, but for sure it felt automated to me because groceries got shopped and they got put away without me touching it. So sometimes just taking your clients through a story like that will help them think about other things that may help them help you come up with new ideas on how to transform their business. So again, Matt and Greg and Trisha last week really talked about some great ideas for having business goal setting conversations, and frameworks like this sometimes help you have that conversation. So if you have any thoughts on that, if you like it, hate it, thought that was a waste of 8 minutes of your life, I would love to hear that so I don't do it again. Just to know if that type of thing is useful and you may
Totally.
use it.
Yes, very, very much so. I mean, in fact, you know, a lot along the same lines of things that I have in my mind, but not set up so clearly and easy to speak to. I mean, I think it's great. It's really very helpful.
Perfect. So that'll be out to all, and the in the Monday email, again, Tuesday email. But I think sometimes frameworks like that are super helpful. I'm going to hop in the dashboard. So the moment you've been waiting for, we do have a release coming out on Tuesday. And I feel especially so, Matt and Trisha, I know you're on here, so I hope this is helpful to you, since you guys presented last week. And you are both, this may be handy for each of you. We should be releasing auto task ticket creation at the end of next week. So I got to take some notes on some pieces that we have in the chat of folks that need things. So keep comments coming if you've got them. And yeah, woot on that. So we already have them in manage, and now the auto task ticket creation are coming as well. So next week on next Friday's call, Alex is going to walk through all of the places and use cases of where you can create tickets and some best practices that we have seen. So I know that folks that have the other PSAs than manage were on the call when we went through it, but the reality of it is, when you can't click the buttons yet, it's easy to just not remember all of the pieces and parts. So again, there are 5 places where you'll be able to create tickets. And that is going into QA and should be out next weekend. So this weekend we're having one release. That's a good question, Bill. We have had, I think, 4 different calls this week with probably 6, because I had 2 myself, of folks who want integrations done. So we have got 4 on the list that we're aiming to roll out 2 within the next 3 to 6 months. As a matter of fact, I will pop up the product roadmap. So don't forget, and I'm doing this for folks that are on the that are watching the recording, you can always type roadmap into our chat and you can see what we're kind of committing to. So we already have these first 3 out, SSO enabled, flag to enforce it globally or per user. The auto task ticket integration, again, next week. Customer success, we already have 3 of these that are well underway. Company MRR based on contracts, the effort tab, the health tab are well on their way. Prototype, we have started work on prototype running the EU instance. That will take several iterations. We're working on some automation on the back end. We're going to collect some more data from folks to help customize experience more. That will not just be useful for onboarding, but for everybody. We have already created the spreadsheet view links, but budget reporting will be next up. Asset Ad Hoc, this is what I'm going to show you today. So these are the 2 releases that are coming out on Monday. And then we have had conversations with all of these folks. So Bill, that they are not, Kaseya isn't on the list of the next 3 to 6 months. But we are certainly having more and more conversations on the daily with folks who want to integrate with us or have us integrate with them one way or the other. So back to the dashboard, let me show you again the 2 pieces that we're looking at right now that we're rolling out Tuesday. Asset Ad Hoc, we have is and is not missing filters and batch update support. So let's talk about what that looks like and why we're excited about it. First, good use cases. A lot of times when folks first get life cycling and have some data quality cleanup to do, we recommend digging into a single client first and using our data best practices to improve your data quality score. We have a doc on asset cleanup that really walks through this. If you're new to us thinking, well, how do I get a hold of that doc? I can see head nodding. Yes, I am wondering how to get a hold of that doc. If you click in the upper right-hand corner, there's a drop-down menu that have onboarding tasks. And what I'm looking at is this asset data cleanup piece. Typically, folks get through these first pieces without even noticing that they needed the checklist. But then when you start to clean up, you're going to kind of want to work through this. So that asset data cleanup has some best practices for how you're going to take a look at your virtual machines, laptops versus workstations, asset type policies, etc. Typically, you've had to do that per company, but ta-da, now with the new asset ad hoc, you can do this across all of your companies. So I'm going down to asset ad hoc, and let's take a look at a couple use cases. Would love for folks to put examples in the chat of how you think you may use this, because I'm going to just give a couple, but you might have other ideas of where this will be really helpful. It's interesting. I've been on a couple of demo calls recently where people have asked for specific use cases that I hadn't considered before. Yeah, Wes, that's a perfect one. I need to update the end of life date for every Sophos firewall across all clients, 100%. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. You said Sophos. So if I go, nope, and grab make and say make is Sophos, we'll use that exact use case. Let's see if we have any in my imaginary demo site. Hey, I have 16 records. Perfect. I'm going to generate the report. And now you can see that I have this across all companies. What we did not have before that we have now is if I select all of these, I can go into choose an action, change my end of life date, and you're good to go across all your companies. So before you would have had to go into each individual company and update the end of life date. And now you can do all of your assets at once. I say that's a big win. So feel free to disagree with me if you do, but I want to hear the story of why you're not a fan. Other use cases. Let's say we look at warranty expiration. So the other thing, does that sync back to the source of truth? It syncs all the pieces that sync. If you have the sync set up, the two pieces that sync that normally can sync back will sync back. Let me show you where they are and how you can check. In integrations, if you go to warranty lookups, if you have yes, write back purchase date and warranty expiration date, then we will write them back. So those are the only two pieces that we do write back. So we absolutely, it will sync back, not just from the individual. Okay, you got it. So yes, if you update either the purchase date or the warranty expiration date and have these boxes checked, then we will do that. You know, and Andrew, it's a good, I'm glad you said that because it'll make me pause for a second on this screen. If it has been a while since you created these settings in Lifecycle, you may want to just go do a quick refresh of two things. First, do you have this set up the way you want? Second, look at the integrations page. Have you integrated all of the things that you could have integrated? I think everybody on this call has their primary integration done and probably the Microsoft 365, but, and you probably have your warranty lookups. Are you a Breach Secure Now or Know Before partner? And we can add those in. Know Before was fairly recent. In this notification bell, you can see all of our most recent releases. So you can see the information around Know Before right in there. Or you a LineGuard partner now. The other piece is in account settings. And I recommend, especially with the supply chain pieces, do you want to change any of your asset lifecycle management policies? What is more expensive now? Do you need to create longer timeframes for anything because you can't get devices? Just something to keep in mind. We have a lot of folks that are asking us kind of questions around this again. But let me go back to asset ad hoc, and I'm going to pull over the warranty expiration. This is the other new piece. We now have is missing and is not missing. So show me all of my devices where the warranty expiration is missing. When I save that, now I've got 276 records across all of my clients. When I generate this report, I can now go in and update these pieces. Some of them I may not care about. Some of them I may want to update in mass. So you can do the same thing I showed you before, right? You can multi-select, choose an action, and update any of these pieces. So to be able to do that across all of your companies at once is powerful. The other piece is when you're in here, if you have created the report that you want. And remember, the rows and the columns of the report are based on what you have selected here. So if I want comments to show, I don't want purchase date, operating system, serial number, location, last user, and device. Yeah, I'll leave all of that. When I generate this report, so now the report looks different. If that's the report I want to save, I can go back and create this report template. So I could create this as Marnie's asset report, and I can select to save this for all users. So if you want to share this across your company, you can do that. Otherwise, it's just a personal view for you. So if I'm saving it across all, I'm going to say company asset report, so that I know it's shared with all versus an individual view that I might like to work off of. So when we originally launched, we did not have that feature where you could save this report and where you could share it to others. So you may want to do some updates around that. Comments, questions, complaints, or criticisms around this? I'll take a sip in case there's frantic typing. All right, so far so good. Coming Tuesday, yep, the asset ad hoc pieces, perfect, good, thank you, Mark. The other piece, and Alex talked about this a few weeks ago, but I want to make sure that folks are aware. In account settings, you can now manage operating system end of life dates. So first, I feel like I've seen these before, but where are they normally? In the dashboard on the bottom left-hand side, these used to be static. So we would just publish whatever the manufacturer published as official end of life dates. So this wasn't editable, and devices would go end of life in the operating system column based on the official published dates, which is why we leave the Windows 7 machines in there in our demo sites, so that we can have some samples of expiring data. However, we have had multiple folks start asking us if they could edit the operating system end of life date themselves, because some people want to start putting that Windows 10 is going to go end of life. So they want to trigger that to be yellow or red, so that you can start having the conversation now, instead of blindsiding them the way many people felt when Windows 7 went down. Even though you tried to communicate it for goodness knows a year, we have to replace these Windows 7 assets, people still felt that they got blindsided when you informed them of it. So now that folks are using Lifecycle Insights, they want to be able to say your Windows 10 is already in the yellow. We already need to talk about how we're going to refresh these. So you can go in and adjust the end of life and the warning date. So end of life, of course, is when it goes red. The warning date is when it will turn yellow. So you can see that and you can tell we've got expired, approaching, good standing. If you want to filter to see, show me what you have in terms of the operating systems that are currently approaching. Do you want to change or adjust any of them? And if I look at the ones that are expired, right, if I want to edit one of them, I can go in, edit it here, and you get two options: the date when it's going to go end of life, and then the number of months prior to that where you want a warning. So I typically see folks, the more expensive the device, the more warning you give them, right? So for a workstation, or also supply chain issues, if you're going to have a really hard time getting new desktops, then you may want to put a bigger warning window, so you start talking about it sooner. On that note, I have another little marketing trick for you that we heard from one of our partners who said I could share with everybody. they typically have been walking into conversations around server expirations. And when they told them that they had a server come due in 2 years, their client would say, no, I just bought that. And they'd have to show them like, nope, you paid $20,000 3 years ago, but they still felt the pain from the $20,000. So what one of our partners does is they send, so they've got a 5-year refresh on servers, and they send a birthday card to the server. And on the first birthday, instead of saying, congratulations, they're one, they say, congratulations, your server is now old enough to drive a car. Because in server years, like dog years, right, it's different than, this server's only going to make it to be 5. On 2, they send, congratulations, you got a family, welcome your new baby into the home. For 3, they talk about how well they're doing in their career, and they're really, at the top of their career. And at 4, they start looking forward to their retirement. And at 5, they have a retirement party for the server. And then the client knows that a new server comes due. So I thought that was clever. They said I could share it. And if you want to steal it and use it as your own, please feel free to do that. I said 30 minutes, 3:29. That's bad. You can tell I taught to a bell, because when the bell's going to ring, people dismiss. So you better be ready. So do we have any comments, questions about the releases coming out Tuesday? We run most Windows on virtual server. We have added the window end of life to those assets. So I do have a couple different thoughts, Mark, but you might want to chat with me so I make sure I tell the story straight.
Okay. Basically, most of our clients run on virtual systems.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it populates that end of life properly.
Got it.
Virtual environments and stuff. I didn't know if there was it looks like we could do it with this ad hoc thing, but I didn't know if there's going to be an easier way to do it in the future and stuff too.
So you definitely could do it ad hoc, and now you can do it across all. So that's, I would say some typing of just read it and put it in. So definitely ad hoc will help. Is it something that you would want to put in as a contract because of expiration, or is it really not?
It's just alerting the clients and say, hey, and that shows up in the budget and all that type of stuff, that, hey, we got to get these removed by, 2024 or whatever time frame.
Yep. Probably, I would think asset ad hoc might be the best way to go on that. I wasn't sure if it was something where you would want to associate a contract to an asset.
No, it's mostly notifying the client that, hey, we got to get some stuff moving. Usually we want to try to make sure everything's done at least 6 months before, if we can. But some clients drag their feet, of course. So.
Yep. Now, Wes, I want to make sure I answer your question correctly along with Mark's. If you change that account setting, it will read it and color it based on that.
It just doesn't apply it to the asset automatically.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But that asset ad hoc fixes a lot of that, right? I can go in and say, give me everything that's a virtual server that's 2012 R2 and change the end of life all in one fell swoop. So
I see what you're saying. Yes.
asset ad hoc is going to solve a lot of those little data entry problems for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The fact that you don't have to click into all the clients. It's interesting, with onboarding, as you all know, because you've both been here quite a while, that you had to go into each of your clients, right, and update the asset list for all of those pieces. But now, as soon as you figured it out for a single client, you can just say, all right, now I know the rules. I'm going to go into asset ad hoc. Everything that's got laptop on it, I'm going to update with this, or everything that's got, a Sophos, we're going to update. So I think it's a tremendous time saver for sure.
Right. Or you have like yesterday where you wake up and every Dell product went up $200.
Yes. Case in point, that is exactly why you want to go into account settings and update your asset type policies. If you need to update your workstations across all your clients, 100%. Good call on that.
How about if you make a mistake, though? I suppose you could go back and maybe if you wanted to keep some, at a certain level and some other ones, you probably can't do an undo button or anything like that.
You could reset. Remember that changing the global settings won't impact any company settings. So if you go into a company, right here, you can revert to the global settings.
Okay.
So if you go input one for a single company, maybe there are some ways you can back out of it. Greg, any plan to separate fields to track life cycle end of life date from manufacturer end of life date? I think the asset, I think that I don't know of any specific work being done on that. But is that differentiating exactly what Wes just talked about? Is that this is when the manufacturer says it's on end of life versus this is what we want it to be? Is that what you mean by that? Okay. So I will ask if that's another field that they think they want to add. Right now it is, yeah, you'll have to update it manually to get it to kick into red. I mean, the date would stay the same, but we would, we can color it differently. But I will ask if we want to do that.
And the Sophos thing just came up. They added the end of life for the XG product line, recently. And we always just have the manufacturer end of life trump whatever our life cycle policy is. Like, hey, if we normally try and get 5 years out of a firewall, but Sophos says the hardware is end of life, then sorry, it's 3 years in, but you're replacing it.
If we can't support it, we can't support it. So, all right, I get how those two go together now. Thank you. You need to be able to say one is, yep, I got it. Oh, right, Greg. So to your point of regardless of what you say it is, at some point you need to know that this is, you can't push this just because they don't feel like paying for it now. It is not patchable. Yep. So in the same way that you can decide which in here nope, not in there. Sorry. When we talked about warranty lookups, to be able to say, yeah, write back this date. If the value is different, you want to be able to say if the warranty manufacturer date is, before the next end of life date, you've got a trumpet. Yep. Okay. Duly noted. Anything else then? Good recipes for barbecue are also acceptable on Memorial Day weekend. All right. Well, then with that, I say thank you all again. Excited for Tuesday. Asset Ad Hoc report will be out in bulk. So, oh, buffalo chicken dip. All right, we'll take that. Thanks, Kelly. All right. Well, everybody have good weekends.
Thank you.
And, we will see you next week, and we'll be talking about the auto task ticket piece. So
awesome. Thanks very much.
Yep. Have good ones.
Great weekend.